Alright, yeah, so we're live. Alright, so I have zero experience. Okay, we're just gonna lay this out now. I have zero animation experience, like zero, nada, right? I am a beginner drawer, beginner artist, whatever you want to say. So I can do fine details, all that, right? But beginning with proportions, stuff like that, that is to me very hard. So I am going in this like zero. Like I am trying to. My goal is to have something done within 2 months. So like 2 months, I'm gonna try to have at least a 6 second clip, right? And then I'm gonna see how well I can blend 2D and 3D together. My main goal is doing 2D, and then since Blender has a really good 3D animation mode, I am going to try to like project. I know that's what a lot of 3D animators use on Blender. I'm gonna try to project a 2D background into 3D and see how all that mixes together. But yeah, so I'm gonna be selecting like a random. I'll just say like a random Berserk chapter. I'm debating, do I do Berserk the Black Swordsman or Berserk the Lost Children's? I do want to do the Lost Children arc, but that is very difficult to do. And that is like I want to give the Lost Children arc what's the word, like I want to give it justice pretty much. Lost Children's arc needs justice because that is a very good arc and the art is really good, and I don't want to go into that blind yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be selecting a chapter of the Black Swordsman arc and see what I would like to animate. So I have an idea about two scenes. So again, I'm going to look for them, but I believe that I want to do zero point 0.8 the Black Swordsman arc. So let's see what they have, because a lot of it depends what I want to get to when it comes to 2D background design, because I really good at like flat abstracts like nature, like what was done in the 90s Berserk. But one scene in the when the God Hand is first introduced, that spiral staircase, that liminal space, it's done really well. And giving that justice would be hard. So I'm seeing if I do want to pursue that and I want to animate that, how would I handle giving that the justice it deserves? Because for me, since I'm a beginner, I'd like to select a scene that has like a lot of action but has minimal backgrounding, because again, that's gonna take a long ass time. Like getting all that together, painting it, you know. So I want to select like a good, almost like what would be the word? Like a good mediator in between that I can do. So I'm gonna. It's about 4 per books. I'm gonna see the Guardian Angels of Desire here. So again, this is which volume do I want to adapt? And I'll have the guys on in a second to see what they would like to adapt. I do think I do want to do the Guardian Angels. So I'm gonna look right now, because a lot of this is just going through what you think would look good, but also seeing like, can you do it? You know what I mean? Like, can you actually do it? And if so, can you do it good? You know what I mean? So a lot of it is not only being ambitious and doing as much as you can, but on top of that, it's setting like realistic limits for yourself. You know what I mean? Because like you can aspire to do something, but there's like this burnout that you'll get from trying too hard. Like if it's something you know you can't do, or you still want to chase it, you gotta accept that there's gonna be a burnout, or with your current skill, it's not gonna be as good as you want. You know what I mean? So it's like in art, you gotta set these boundaries. You know what I mean? And you gotta make sure you're doing what you can actually do. So a lot of that is again picking what's realistic, what can you do, and what you think would be the best for you to do. So a lot of that do. So right now I have the grease pencil set up. Blender has a really good grease pencil. I really like the way it's like really well. Again, I barely use Blender. This is my first time, so it's like this is a mix of me going into doing it blind, both in the animation scene but also in just getting everything done in Blender. Like first I'm doing the colors, but my main goal is I want to set up 5 different colors. So let me see if I can get up a Krita, because I have a feeling that I should use 2 different apps, one for planning out and then one for animating. My goal is to keep it kind of like the 90s show, where back then they had very limited colors. Blending and modern, like, bright colors weren't really possible to do, and if they were very time um, inducing. I don't know what the word is, but it's very stressing to do. So my goal is to try to pick 5 colors per scene that I use for backgrounding, right? And then per animation scene, I choose color A, and then so I choose 5 colors, and then 2 shadows. So I do base color, which is the main color I'd pick. I do highlight and shadow. Shadow, I think I do like a 30-40%, and then I darken per. Again, I'm not trying to do a lot of blending, so it's going to be set shadowing. And then for highlights, I would pick a color that I would like to highlight. So right now, again, picking the colors is picking colors is more easy when you find out what the scope you're trying to do, because everyone has their own version of what they want to adapt. So, for example, since most comics are black and white, the way you shade can help determine which color is which. But then again, it's up to interpretation what those colors can be. So, like, some things will be obvious. If it's along the lines of black and white, like gray, for example, or maybe sometimes even red or green, it will be very easy to make out. But some you can just go. So I think I would take 2 colors that I specifically would like, and then after I pick said colors, I would decide between them, and then from there I'd pick what's the shadow, what's the highlight, and then what to do as the main color. And again, I'm trying to limit 2 options, because I think when you try to, as an artist, when you try to make your category broad, you start procrastinating and you don't know what to do. And then if you work in a with very limited resources and a very limited boundary, you can tend to flesh out what you can already use. Again, like a lot of old artists, they didn't have unlimited resources, and that's why I think a lot of modern computer artists are very uninspired or uncreative, and a lot of that is because they have too much to do, right? They too much colors, too much way to draw anatomy, too much styles. They can't pick the limitations of what they have. One example is that people try to copy a lot of different art styles, but they never try to see how they can draw. Because I truly believe everyone has their own distinct art style. Very easy to find out what you have. But an art style isn't how you sloppily draw something. An art style is the way you try to interpret things in your own imagination. So, for example, if you draw an eye very bad, I'm just gonna draw a bad eye really quick. That isn't your art style, but that's how you interpret it. Now, let's say I want to flesh this eye out more, so I'm gonna give it a nice curve. Again, this is gonna be a good eye, but I'm just gonna try to flesh it out. See, like that. Let's add some eyelash. Alright, now that was very sloppy, but you can kind of see that that is the art style you're making out of. So again, you don't have to copy other people's art styles to find your own. You can limit yourself to just what you can draw and try to perfect that. Because again, art is subjective, but good art is objective. So you can tell when an eye is poorly drawn or when it's drawn really well, even if it's in a different art style. So on top of that, that's kind of off topic for what we choose for color patterning. But right now I'm going through the panels that I'm going to do. So I'm going to show what I can show for now, because again, I don't want to get demonetized. But let's open up my display capture here. Okay. So this is what we're looking at right now. So I kind of want to mimic something like this. Now again, this scene is going to take a lot of time. So this is picking and choosing. Do I do this and chase it and risk burnout and procrastination? Or, is there an easier scene I can do? But this is along the lines. Like this, I'm going to pick how I move from scene to scene through here. So I want to pick this scene layout. I'm going to use these colors and this theming. And then I'm going to choose which panels I animate. Now, preferably, I want to animate the scene where he's launching his cannon away from the vortex. I think that's a very cool beginner explosive scene to do, right? Again, using colors is a really cool way to reach an artistic level that you can't sketching. So like, for example, if it's hard for me to do all these lines in sketching, what I'll do instead is I'll select a bunch of different shades, or like I said, minimal shades, and I'll use the differing colors and shades to make the detail. Instead of just sketching it out or hatching it, I'll use the colors to make said detail. So again, like for example, for Void's brain, instead of drawing all those little details with black and white ink, instead I'll just use color. And again, that's why animation is very cool when it comes to how you use colors, because colors is a really good way to cheat out when you can't draw details. So I'm gonna look through here which scenes I want to do. Okay, so here, this scene when the vortex is coming up, but instead of the count, it grabs guts instead. So I'm gonna go down here. Perfect. So this scene I want to do. See, the vortex is grabbing, and it already took the count away. He deserved that death, by the way. And then it starts going for guts because of his brand. This is a scene that I would like to do, because when he's using his, because again, it's not just about how realistic and stable your animation looks. To make it look appealing, you need explosiveness. So I want to use this very explosive scene where he's reloading the gunpowder and firing it at Griffith, but also letting the demons of the void. These scenes where he's loading up the gun, his arm cannon, and then here. So the first way I'm gonna see how I'm gonna lay out the on-page chapter to the animation itself is I'm gonna see the movement, because again, animation and comic have similar but very different ways of conveying movement, because again, there's very limited amount of frames you can do on comic paper, rather than the average 24 frames you can do on animation. Like here, for example, each panel's a frame, so you have to mimic your lines and each frame to create this mimicry of motion. Rather than animation, you can focus on one frame, one scene, and add the movement in there. So again, I'm trying to do 6 seconds of animation minimum. I'm going to focus on one scene where I can do. So I'm going to see if I can do him loading the gunpowder, and then after loading said gunpowder, him firing. So I'm thinking I will take this scene, right, and I'm gonna create like a blank. Okay, so I'm gonna take the photo itself, and then I'll hold up. Alright, the live chat ain't working. Hold up. I have some chuds here doing the live chat. Hello, chud. How is the live chat not working?
You're a kid's channel for some reason.
No, I'm not. It said as for adults. Is it not working?
I see choices for families where the live chat button would be.
Let me see. Live chat.
I'm just helping him. I just need to like help you troubleshoot because the stream goes on any longer.
Edit, yeah, because I do want open.
That's so weird.
Because it has chat here. So chat is disabled for this live stream, but why though? Let me see.
What the heck?
Settings.
Yo, like I can like it, but I can't add I can share it. I just can't like add it to playlists or like chat. That's so weird.
Location. Yeah, but this isn't for kids. Oh, it said it's yes, it's made for kids. The hell? No, I set that as no. Why is that face? I always set that as no. It's set by my channel.
Ew.
I'm not gonna age restricted, even though there might be some age restricted scenes. I'm just gonna do that. Alright. Let me know when the chat
Yeah.
changed. I'm applying this right now.
There's a chance you might have to restart this. I just needed to bring this to your attention. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
There might be a chance you have to restart the stream anyway, but that should be not a big deal.
Yeah, no, I already did it. So
Same as stream.
I honestly don't know what's going on.
All right. Well, if you have that squared away, hopefully it changes soon.
Yeah, I set it to not forget. Again, my channel is set for not forget.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're good.
So
All right. I'll leave you alone now.
Yeah, well, I could join a group call soon, and you guys can give your opinion on it. But yeah.
Yeah, Trey's like doing homework right now.
Oh man, Papa Trey. Alright. Well, you guys can be in the live
Papa
chat.
Trey.
I'll talk, and then if you guys want soon, I could join a group call, and I can have the audio from there to here. Okay, so moving from that conversation, everything should be fixed now. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plan out my perspective. Again, I'm applying a lot of beginner comic knowledge into this instead of animated knowledge. So again, this isn't like take my advice. This is as a comic artist. This is what I'll do. So we're gonna create a line of the horizon. So I'm guessing it's just gonna be there. So let's look back at the panel where the void is. Because again, the backgrounds in your manga or comic, whatever you're making, aren't always going to be the same, right? Each panel, because again, you have to draw this stuff on a very crunching time basis. And if you do the same detailed panel again and again, you know how much of an ass that's going to be. You know what I mean? If I drew this for each frame, you know what I mean? So again, each time you're planning out a scene, your horizon line has to be different. So I'm going to take this base, for example, as the horizon line. So I wanted more up though, because again, he's more down. So, but he's on the floor too, right? He's like being dragged up. So that's gonna be tough to do. So I'm gonna copy this, save it. Holy, I forgot how long these chapters are. Okay, so he's being pulled up from the ground. Yeah, so he's on the ground, he's being pulled, and he's still near the ground, but he's being tugged away. So I'm gonna have to decide what do I use as my horizon line. Do I do it up or down? So right now I'm gonna draw, let's say, the mediator in between that, and just to be safe, I'm gonna draw one line again there. So this will be my horizon line, this will be my ground line. I'll change it whenever. Again, it's not gonna be 100% accurate, but it's gonna be alright. So if I had a second monitor, this would be very helpful. So let's go to here. Let's use new template. Okay, so I'm gonna, one thing that I see that I don't really like, but I also do, is that a lot of animators that try to adapt to the Black Swordsman arc, which is like this big thing, which is why I wanted to do the Lost Children's arc, because that is very hard to adapt, especially because of the story. But I noticed a lot of things, they try to change the art style to either fit their own art style or interpretation, or they do too much to make it fit like the later chapters. And that's one thing I don't like, because while the story progresses, I think no more than 8 months throughout the future, because again, there's a lot of time skip arcs. 8 months between this and the current events of the Fantasia arc. You can still grow. Again, the main Guts is 21 years old. 21 is usually when you end puberty. Most men end puberty fully. So the jaw still has time to develop. So while again, he's not going fully from a different jawline, I think he still matures a bit, especially since again, the Berserk armor like wears you down. Like it ages you up, because again, it's taking a lot on your mental, spiritual, and physical stress and everything. So I do think that I can still draw it in this 90s-esque 80s art style, still keeping it somewhere up to date with the new art style. But like, I still want to keep it, because again, I like the old art style. Like, a lot of people say it's poorly drawn. I don't really think so. I think it's special. I think it's a product of its time. So, for example, one exercise I like doing is I like drawing the eyes first, because to me, the two parts of what makes you an art style, what makes an art style, is the eyes and the jaw. A lot of people don't talk about it, but the jaw is what changes. It's how you stylize your character. Because eyes are important, but a lot of what goes into the eyes is how you ink it and how you draw the thickness of the eye shadow, the eyebrows, the eyelashes. But what's even more important is the jaw, because again, Berserk has a very realistic art style and anatomy and the jaw, but the eyes are where it's stylized. So again, if I were to draw the jaw either way, that would make it more cartoony, you know what I mean, or more realistic. So I'm gonna start with a blank pair of eyes, and then maybe I'll check with the jaw. So first we're gonna take a photo from here and see how it's drawn. So again, eyes drawn different ways and different emotion. This is very blocky with a round upper. So we're gonna draw like a straight line here. All right. Yeah. Okay. And we're gonna make it more round, because again, it's the bottom that's more blocky than the top. So it's like a straight pierce, and then we're gonna go here. Later on, I notice he draws, I forgot this part, but we call it like the little drop, the blood drop, whatever it's called here. He draws it more slanted in later on, but here it's almost like non-existent. It just closes. So I'm gonna add that personally, but what I am gonna do is try to keep the authenticity of this. Pupils are drawn very small. The eyeball itself is drawn mid-length, but the pupils are very small. So I'm gonna try to keep it there. This is my favorite way of cheating an equally proportioned eyeball, is drawing two halves like this, like a crescent. And then yeah, okay. I'm gonna check to see if anyone's commenting yet. Anyone's talking like a chud. But yeah, I definitely think the pupil is very important, and I am going to use this cheat, but I am going to try to keep it accurate. So there's almost like this crescent inside of the eye itself. So it's like that almost. Then we're gonna add some shading to it. Let's see. Oh, very minimal details. So I'm just gonna add that. There you go. Okay. Let's make the top more thick. Again, applying comic knowledge, it does carry on a little bit, but the top of the eyelash here is usually the thickest, and the bottom's the thinnest. You know, that's how it goes for real eyes as well. So this, of course, will be cleaned up, but so we have a pretty basic eye here. Now what I am going to do is the boxiness looks a bit too big, so I'm going to correct it. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to create a new layer, I'm going to apply here, paste the attached bitmap, I'm going to take it, return it over, enhance the size. So we're going to see it from this position, and then we're going to lower down the opacity. So we're going to see how the eyes are drawn right now. So again, up and over, but it does slant in more. I think one thing I'm missing is the slant. So we're going to go back here. We're going to do our not our grease pen, we're going to use our sketch pen, and we're going to try to almost round in a bit like that. Yeah, like that. And then we're going to close like that. Perfect. And I'm going to take that, wipe that away. Okay, so this is looking pretty decent so far, of how we're going to copy the eye. I do think the boxes of the eye are just a little too big. So I'm going to curve it more, make that nice and curvy. Nice and curvy. Perfect. There you go. And gonna add like the little eyelashes, because you can see Kentaro likes drawing eyelashes on every character, which is thing I like seeing, and I like the way he varies it in scenes and shapes. Because while Guts is like this traditionally like macho man, he does have pretty like thick eyelashes, which I really like. So I think that helps us get a little how we're gonna start like coloring it. Now I do not have a artist sleeve, artist glove, whatever you call it. So while blender is forgiving on your palm, smearing here it's not. So to be fair, I might not be able to get certain details right unless I zoom in a lot. But yeah, just gonna add some shading to the eye. Gonna add the curve there. Okay, and then we're gonna add. So I feel like I want to kind of make it boxy like this, but I might stretch or slim just to fit the style I want, just to make it a little more realistic, but also smooth. Because again, realism, I'm going for like a stylized realism, right? A lot that's going to be in the anatomy and the facial expressions, but we will work there as we get there. And then another thing I like, which isn't really carried on in the later art, but is carried on in the movies, which I love the movies because of the art style, is there's this little like eyelash split here. I don't know which part of the eyes that's supposed to be, but I really like that. It adds like this nice layer of detail to the eyes. So I'm gonna move right like that. I'm gonna use actually one of my favorite brushes that I kinked out a little bit, whatever the word is. So let's move the opacity. This smoke, I like using smoke to add detail. So, and again, the levels of detail will vary. So I can kind of have that darken as we go. I was gonna size that down, but this is what I'll do to add detail and hatching past what I already want to do, and then of course color will come on top of that. So I think we got that pretty good on how we're gonna do the color, this shading. Okay, so we got the eyes, or something similar to the eyes. Okay, so we're gonna see how we do the movement. And it is, what movement are we gonna start first? So we're gonna start with facial movement, or we're gonna do the hands, cause like moving the arms together, put the to make the gunpowder explosive. That would be a good scene, though it is complex. So what I think I'll do is that I'll have him move his hands close to add it in, but then on top of that, what I'll do is I'll have a cut to the cannon moving up, and then I'll add this shot in then of him screaming, and then I'll have the cannon pull in the next shot, because again, saves a lot of time and budget if you have budget, but for me it's on screen. I can have him move it and then cut to the cannon itself, so I get a detailed shot of the cannon, and then I can have another cut of him getting ready to launch the cannon. So that will save, I think, certain time. So I'm gonna see if I can add a layer here. I don't know if it will let me. No object space. I don't think it will. So I'm gonna have to go back and forth on this. So I'm going to prefer to draw this upside down. So I'm gonna plan out the shape and the width of the body I'm gonna draw. So I'm thinking having the head somewhere here. Right, so we have the head here, around this line. Now the size is the biggest part, because again, it's how much do I want him to fall under that. So we have the full canvas here. So I'm going to focus on this canvas real quick before I start to focus on the animation, because again, I want to get at least one frame done before I move on to the I'm doing. So view layer, let me see if I can add layers. View layer, add view layer, new. And then let me see, because again, we're figuring out this together. So can I paste a reference layer into Blender? Again, I prefer using a reference type layer than just a photo layer, because reference layer is way better because it's easier to use as a reference. Shift A. Okay. Reference overlays. If I'm surprised if I already have this. I'm surprised I already don't have this in my add-ons. Drag and drop into Blender, why not? Is this like an instant download? Yes, it is. Holy, okay, wait, that's actually good. Alright, let's figure this out. Okay, I want to open. Perfect. Memory limit now. Allow analysis, yeah. Alright. Let's see how I use that. Alright. Install. Okay. Viewport. Motion capture. I don't have a motion capture. Again, that's a tough thing with having certain extensions. You have to configure it a lot. So again, having something from Krita would be easy, but I am trying to do this instead. Here, make sure I copy this image. Objects to paste. Yes, install, enable, thank you. And let's see how we use this in the first place. I really like that you could just drag and drop onto that. It's really good. Okay, so we have a reference page on how we use them. Feature add. Alright, let's see. Anyone seeing them? There we go. Yeah, here we go. Let me tweak that up for better quality. Is that better? Yeah, that's way better. I usually tend not to like to do light because lighting makes my skin tone look weird on camera, but better quality, who cares? So I'm gonna focus on creating. Alright. So see. Again, I really like the grease pen because it adds like this cool artificial volume to it. This is one of the best pens I've used so far when it comes to any form of digital drawing or painting. That's just because of the versatility and how sharp it is as a pen. I really like how non-blunt it is. So we got the pen, pencil, softies, fill. Okay, perfect. Mark, chisel, ink pen, airbrush, so soft tilt, eraser. Okay. So I think we have a pretty decent amount of yeah. So I can always just use the marker, I'd say, for like a base nice tint for I think that'd be a really good tint. Okay. Toggle reference layers. So Shift V. Let's see what that does. Perfect. Okay, this is really this is very helpful because we can have a reference onto how we want it to look. Is there a way to scale it? S. I don't think it will let us scale. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, that's actually really good. All right. No. Move, rotate. Okay. If I can't do the opacity. I don't think we can change the opacity of this. Grayscale, lock, ortho, pan. Yeah. Drag, circular, reset, crop, pivot. I don't think they're, yeah. It's not like Krita where you can do that, but it's fine. So we'll work from there. Alright. So I think I should move. So we want it like almost like hanging. Like that. So let me reset where the head will be. So it will still be along maybe a single space where the jaw is. Again, the jaw is very important in the quality of what you're drawing. The eyes is that way. The head is tilting. I don't think there's a lasso tool where we can change the size, or if there is, I do not know about that. But I think this is a very good basis for the head. So I'm just going to draw these hairlines so we could just remember that this is the top of the head. And I'm going to draw the lines as in this is how the hair flows. Okay. And then the face. Again, like I said, I like the old style, so I'm going to try to mimic it, but in a way that's very animation friendly. So this is just a test of how it will look. But another thing about animation is that it's very there's a lot of nuance to it, but typically you have to round out your shapes more just to make it cleaner and easier to animate. So a lot of that I will be doing is just rounding out stuff that would normally be sharp. So here we go. I'm still going to sharpen some parts that need it, but I will have to soften some of the edges. So again, this will be kind of us drafting how it will look in the first place. So a lot of this is just finding out what you want to do. I think the hand should cut into there. So joints, hand, but the hand is turned in on itself. So add the barrel, and then human hand, elbow, but we'll scooch it in because it's very, very messed up. And then yeah, okay. So I think this is a very horribly drawn guidelines, but it's what we'll work with. I'm gonna try to skirt that. So let's draw the base of the neck. Yeah, so I think what I can work with is finding out where the base body is, and then I can cut in on the guidelines of the arm. So again, the neck, say let's do 1, 2, 3. I want to show 3 heads on screen. So one head would be the upper torso, this would be the connector, and this should be towards the crotch of it. Okay, and I'd say add some of that, and then it goes up. So we're resetting the arms, where the arms land here. Whoa, yeah, let's curve that in. Okay, so we have the base of our arm muscle, we have the bicep, the forearm, and then the elbow. Just make sure, oh, that goes under itself. There we go. And then this would be our hand. See what chat's saying. What they don't like is that it usually, hold on, let me use the docs menu under the menu bar. Where's the menu bar? Am I just stupid? Tools, scenes, docs, chat. Here we go. I'm gonna cut this feed real quick so I can sign into my account. Because what they don't like is that it won't sign you in for everything, which I don't like. I continue. Blah blah blah. Yo, LL. No. I almost put the wrong account. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So I'm gonna head back here. I don't really have to do any display captures yet. So, okay. So right now we're focusing on the width of the muscles, specifically the neck and the chest. I think, so again, the bicep kind of like already like intrudes on itself. So the neck here on his right side is going to appear more overtaken, you know, around here, because again, the bicep is cutting in. But here we're going to see more of that neckage, the neck muscle. Just gonna draw that. Okay, so let's focus on the body, because again, the body, the main body part, is how we're, it's really how you're gonna see the body move. Because if the chest is very well bad, it doesn't matter how good your neck is, it's got, so we know that the muscle is cut in here. And the chest is about yay thick. So we're gonna cut it in. So say we can slim down the arm to pretty much that. Yeah. So I'm gonna erase the excess skin by 30. Yeah, 30. Let's go back here. Alright. Try to enlarge the bicep. Because again, if something isn't looking right, you should try to correct it in what you think is possible. So, or if the height looks weird, make the legs longer. Same thing here. If, like, you think the arms look weird, enlarge the muscles in certain areas, i.e. the bicep, because that's really what helps connect the arms. Alright. So I'm going to I'm gonna rise here. And then here there's gonna be one big muscle, and so this needs to go in and this muscle needs to go out. Okay. Alright. So I'm gonna cut in that muscle. So I notice the elbow needs to be bigger, and again, like I said, something don't look right, fix it. And in this case, you'd be making the elbow muscle just a bit bigger. Now the forearms, I think we need to draw more of a slant, because if we're going to draw the elbow right there, then I think it would go in there. So like this is good. Try to smooth it in just a little bit. There we go. Alright, so smooth it in, but then start bringing it up. Very much up. There you go. And then we can always just correct the muscle mass later on to make it look better. But this, for example, would just be a good placeholder for said proportions. And again, a lot of this is going to be hand and finger movement and connecting objects together, which, again, for some people like me, for example, that would be pretty hard to animate. So a lot of that is, again, going into how would you transition that from a comic panel to a frame of animation, a clip. So I think I'm going to resize that. Yup. I'm gonna hatch that in. I'm gonna make a little break and boop, and then have that come down as well. Okay. and then based on the size of the powder, because we're going to be reading right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right. So he's putting it in. Okay, so like the black powder. Okay, so we're getting the black powder in. So I'm gonna add this level 2. Again, this is just the draft of what it will look like before we perfect it. Because again, you need all the items in there, drawn out, and then later you can focus on perfecting them in whichever way you want. Focus on the finger moving in. Again, and how the torso is gonna move. So I think I'm gonna, yeah, just gonna cut the torso in a little bit and move to the arm. Because again, I think this is a decent torso. Yeah. Because that's how we're gonna conceal the bicep muscle, right? Yeah. So we're gonna conceal the bicep. Because again, before you focus on movement, you gotta make sure your still image even looks good. Because you add movement afterwards, but you also make the image with movements in mind, right? Movement in mind, but it's still an image or a comic in practice. So we're trying to do. We're not trying to make it as detailed as a comic panel. We're still trying to make it easy to move and maneuver, but just trying to make it detailed enough where we can make out certain parts that we're going to animate. Right. Because I'm going to add this little sling right here. Little sling. And this leads to a belt. Because again, since this scene is somewhat cut off, we have to interpret how it's going to look. And that's why, for example, I'm using the other panels as a reference to how it will look. So you see the arms bulging out here, and then the bicep takes over that and rounds. So the bicep rounds. Then we also gotta, and then here is where it cuts off near the forearm, the elbow for the arm, because his elbow is still there, just not the forearm. So we're gonna keep that in mind, how that's shaped. But again, these pages that are more open help us correct how big the bicep's gonna be. So again, I should correct myself saying, hey, I think this bottom bicep should just be a little tad bit more bigger, and I'd be right to try to correct that, because that's what makes it look better, having the proper proportions. Because if one part looks too muscly and the other looks too weak, it's not gonna be. So, and then of course details will add the muscle itself for you. So like the more details you add here, like this, it looks more muscular because you're adding detail. So I'm just gonna add some placeholder. You get a focus of direction, because again, arms are moving this way, so I'm gonna vertically hatch my lines. Okay, next size. Yeah, so we're just gonna, there you go. Gonna see, because what I can always do, see where the face is landing, because again, that's gonna help determine a lot. So if the face is landing this way, I'll add one neck muscle, one neck. Neck should go more straight, so there you go. Like a roof or hooded eyes, kind of there. Again, this is a placeholder, but this is, for example, just how it will look. We translate it. The nose is done in a very interesting perspective. The nose is done very interestingly. Again, this will help correlate where the neck sits, how it tilts, because we still want to make it look like it's tilting, but just not to an extreme. It's like this is already, because the head's already doing a lot of the tilting, so the neck is really just supporting it. Bulging out, but it's also like making its own presence, in a sense. I don't know if you, a lot of perspective, but the nose is also a bit around the eyes too. So I wonder if I am making the box. That's one thing I don't like, is that so I can choose if I want to lay the eyes more down. Again, we're gonna have like a distance between the nose, and then the top of the mouth is gonna be here. I'm gonna move the mouth down a little bit, just because I know it's gonna be harder to get it very. Yeah, there you go. It's gonna be the chin. Okay, so we know where the neck's sitting. We're gonna cut down the bicep by a little bit. So I'm thinking of matching the right bicep with the left. So that means we're gonna come down here. There, yeah. There you go. And then I'm gonna see how I form the muscle around that. Alright. So I think beyond the shading and the detailing, the muscle's somewhat even. I'm gonna add some shading to that. Again, another thing which is, again, why a lot of people say it may not be the Black Swordsman arc, definitely has the worst art so far. Not bad, but just for Berserk standards, is muscles are very flat within a sense. They have very minimal shading. Still, it's shaded amazing, but compared to later on, you could definitely tell it's like more like standard blank inking, rather than, again, later he'd be known for like extravagant realistic inking. So that's semi what I want to capture. gonna move the hair. Just gonna create like a. Again, oh shit, what did I do? I accidentally projected it. So again, this is what it would look like in a 3D space, but I would do this with the backgrounds more, with projecting. But I do agree that it do look good. But I don't know what the hell I just did. How do I end a projection? There we go. So numpad 0. This is actually really cool, which is why I chose Blender, because it really can help with projecting the backgrounds. But again, this will also choose like how the hell does my like anatomy look from different angles. Like this, hold up, this is the direction we're looking at right now when he's falling, so it has to mimic that within a sense. So I definitely should check my projection a bit more, but that's like as you get later when we start blending backgrounds. Okay, just gonna do a little bit of the eyes, just a little bit, a little tad bit. Sure, it's pointing there. Okay. Then I'm not gonna be able to detail too much right now, because again, I'm not in the stage of trying to like comic book it within a sense. Alright, let's see if the big L has anything to say. I'm just gonna try to thin out the lines on the bottom a bit more, because again, the bottom usually has thinner lines, and part of that is you just have to learn how to structure your lines well enough to communicate thickness and emotion, because again, these are stressed eyes, very stressed eyes. So see if I can wrap up the eyes now. Detail. Again, it's probably not. Add some shading. So I think we kind of have an idea of what's going on. I'm gonna see if I can try to finish the face more, because I think the face really helps get us where we're going. I do think my eyes are a little more offset. I gotta angle them a bit more, which means I gotta draw them specifically in this direction. So let me start erasing a little bit. I'm gonna make the sides a bit more accurate, so I can try to insinuate more of the detailing without erasing too much. Alright. So if I could do the mouth, because what I want to do is add more of a full face shading for the sense. Yeah. So one thing I want to do is that when I'm trying to mimic the proportions, let's see if I can flip it on itself. See what I mean? It's like you can go too wrong with trying to look one way. When you flip it around, it won't really look good. So one thing I have to do is definitely tighten the facial structure. So let me try to make it more close knit with each other, because I think trying to tighten it too much is not a good look. Let me try to make it more out of the way isn't a good look. One thing too is that view would be better. But again, I don't know how to do that. So again, a lot is like guessing, going blind through, you know what I mean? It's like, it's cool. But it's like a learning curve too. So the nose, we have then bloody nose. And I say here is where we should sculpt the new mouth. Again, if I could maybe like flip the view, I would be able to maybe make the proportions a bit better. Like, oh yeah, I guess I can. So I'm gonna try to use as well creator's version where I can yeah, it's definitely the eye positioning, the eye shape too. So I'm gonna have to make it more. I'm gonna have to hood the eye a bit more. Because I think the proportion is good. It's just, yeah, like the nose. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the nose. Oh my god. Again, you gotta be really careful on the proportions because, and your perspective, because that's definitely how you can mess up a lot. If you see something as it is and it's not as it is, that can really mess you up. As you saw, I just did now. Alright, so hood the eyes a bit more. we're gonna do is definitely try to space out the eyes a bit more. I think that's part of that is the size of the eye too. So that's a decent spacing. Let's do the nose scar real quick. I think that could help us determine where the nose is gonna sit. Is it gonna sit there? And of course, it could be bleeding. Now, I definitely do think the eyes might be a little too up. So I'm going to correct the eye position, because again, I don't think there's a lasso tool. It's one thing I don't like. There is no lasso tool. The nose scar is sitting up there, just a little above the nose scar. Again, using stuff like that is really useful to correct your positioning, because again, something as little as a nose scar can sit as a basis for your eye. So I think I can work with that. So I'm just gonna stretch out the eye a bit more, make it more Alright, and then now a lot can be just how we do the jaw. So I'm going to correct some of the width and the length of the jaw. So yeah, I like the little jaw fat that Miro used to draw. Get rid of a lot of this. The useless guidelines. A lot of that can mess with how you draw. And again, I'm drawing on this accented layer. So you can see, like, it looks better now when you're upside down, because you also have to remember that when you can view the upside down from a different angle, and when you're doing that, it definitely, like just right now, it corrects a lot of what you're doing when it's wrong. So gonna see what I need to erase on this end. Kind of make it flow more and easier. I think a lot of this is if you get a good face shape and neck right, it will help you balance the body even more. Because again, I have to connect the neck muscles to these, and again, the biceps are being raised, so it is within a sense intruding on the neck, protruding. But on top of that, I have to make sure that it doesn't, like, the neck is just like a straight line. It has to make sure it's like it has curves, because unless you're like extremely anorexic, you have some curve to your neck, and that is a detail that you need to add. So let's go back to this view, and let's really just try to clean up the jaw, especially on this side. There's too much stuff on the jaw. So again, let's see, it's tight, and then it just curves. So tight, and then we're just going straight down. So let's go back here. I think that looks pretty decent. I think that looks decent for what we're looking for. Because again, you got to realize there's also a top to the face too. And the top is going to decide a lot of how the upper part of the face is going to look. So let me add just my eye. For that, I'm going to size down to that's way too damn small, but okay, I can do some detailing like that. That's lapis. It's lapis. That's lapis. Right. It's lapis. So that is the art style you're making out of. So again, you don't have to copy other people's art styles to find your own. You can limit. I'm already getting clips. Oh my god. But yeah. So let's make the jaw here more protruding. All right. Because yeah, there's also one thing he used to draw. Well, he still draws it, but like I like the way he used to be drawn. There's a little like neck fat down there. It's like it doesn't mean the character you're drawing is fat, but what it just kind of like insinuates that there's like more to the jaw than just the sharp part, which is true. Most people don't have like a extreme like anime jaw where it's like really sharp like a model. No, there's a lot of nuance to how you draw jaws in different styles. So I definitely think the that little fat, I'm just gonna call it under fat, even though that's not actually what it is. That's kind of what it's like insinuating, because again, there's still other parts of your jaw. Just gonna add that. I'm gonna add the I like how there's like little cross hatchings in there. Alright, alright. Alright. The mouth, and again, I'm using the upside down to kind of help. So it's going to be in tune with this. So we're gonna angle it on that side. Again, the shape of the jaw will also help the facial features that we're gonna do. Gonna be like a lot of nuance to the way we do this. So we're gonna just add a little bar to the mouth. We're gonna add the lip or the chin. So again, the way it goes, it's going bigger on the, yeah. It's going bigger on that side towards the false eye. Well, it's not a false eye because there's no damn eye in there anymore, but still, you know what I'm hinting at. So it's gonna add some hatch marks to that. Just gonna add a little more depth to the thickness of the mouth. Just gonna that if the sharp part is facing that, then it's gonna be like just like a little bit there. The way that it's going, yeah. A lot of this is just like guessing where we're gonna place the fundamentals of the face. Because the eye isn't always gonna look the same way when you finalize the inking. Because again, I'm gonna ink this totally different than what it looks right now. Like this isn't gonna look the same after I ink it because the pencil sketches are gonna look very different. This is just like an example. Again, this is the still frame we need. Alright, thickness. Yeah, we need a little. I'm gonna shorten. I'm gonna thicken this, but I'm also gonna shorten just a little bit. That's too big. A lot of this is correcting the brush size because again, I've never used this system of brush before. So again, when I switch back to an ink brush, it's gonna look a bit different. think on the features I gotta correct how that, yeah, the eye kind of like dips. Let me see how it looks. 100% it looks better upside down. And again, the better it looks the other way around, the better it looks front, the better it's gonna look upside down. That's like 100%. Add some toning there. Take my brush and start erasing more the stuff that I don't want. Like for example, the mouth. I'm shortening the mouth. Also gonna stop from being so blocky because that is a reason why it looks off, because it's too blocky. Add some hatching to kind of get a sense. So let's see how, again, it looks upside down, and that looks pretty good. Honestly, can't really complain. I definitely think when I move to the top, it's gonna look better. The mouth, definitely I gotta work on that. Again, it's shorter. That's something I gotta work on. Just remember that it does not go past the pupils of the eye. So I'm gonna have to make sure to erase that a bit later on. And fix the mouth proportion, because I notice it comes up there, then it goes down there. So I'm gonna have to make sure to do that, but also the top. Notice the top is just a bit funky, So I'm gonna try to do that. Now let me see. Let me increase the strength. So that's definitely not helping me. There's very minimal strength. Alright, let me towards the regular eye, it goes more out towards the regular eye, so it should go more in on this side. And then I'll start adding the details here. Again, I'm good. One day I wonder if I should flip. Let me see if I can flip, because I think that helped me. Again, a lot of my time is, there we go, is trying to figure out how it corresponds to a certain angle. So yeah. So I should round that, because again, in animation, you don't want a lot of edges compared to comics, because edges aren't really gonna do you good, unless you're doing a specific style. But even then, you need to do that style very, very well. Consistently doing animation frames, unless all the frames are sticking to that edge, it's gonna look very unprofessional. Unless that's either the look you're going for, and again, you are very skilled and you can know how to do edges really well. This is something I would not stick to personally. Again, that's why I'm trying to clean up, because when I draw comics, I do try to make it more. I do try to add a lot of edges, because I like the 90s gothic style. Again, the 80s Berserk comic did that really well, but it is something you gotta watch out for when you're animating rather than drawing. So space out the lip, because again, you gotta remember certain parts are gonna be spaced out more. So just grab that. Add some shading, thicken this, Alright, so this is gonna be something that is gonna be kind of tough to do. Okay, so I know that there's more of a scratch layer on here when you go to shade that, but how that falls is the tough part because it's going towards the nose, and then there's like a little up there of blood, and then it kind of thickens, and then you start going to a hatch. There's like this little V there that ends it. Same thing here. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10 V, and then of course when we twist it, it's better. But again, the mouth needs more volume. It's way too thick. So I'm just gonna go out on the edgings, go a little in between. Again, go on the edges. I'm gonna try to smooth this out while also because detail will cover up, but it won't save you. You know what I mean? Like detail is not saving my ass at all. You know what I mean? So I gotta make sure I get like this good level right here. And then sharpen that. Now, one thing I noticed is that besides the mouth, because one thing I like to do is I like to use my hands to cover to see how we're doing, is I'll cover certain parts. I notice the mouth isn't angling. Again, the mouth doesn't have a lot of texture, but it's not just that. The jaw, like I was referring to, isn't really angling too much out. Like, yeah. Part of it is the mouth, part of it is the jaw. I think if I fix the jaw more. So I'm gonna angle the jaw just a tad bit. I'm using multiple drawing apps. And by using that, it's taking up RAM. So I'm gonna so we're angling it there. We do gotta fix the mouth. We also looks decent, but when we start getting to the mouth, it's like, you know what I mean? So we got like this straight. So where this goes down a bit more. Okay, one thing I should do is also just get the hair out of the way, just a little bit on the sides, just so I can see how we're going with that. I think the jaw and the mouth, it's definitely the mouth. I think the jaw is and just not coming down enough. You know what I mean? Like it's too circular. Like it is between wide and round. This is round. So I'm gonna try to unround it. Like, yeah. I forgot about eyebrows. I think full-faced eyebrows. When we add the eyebrows, it's gonna look a bit better. Still though, I think gotta correct some facial movement a bit more. Like when I'm going down. Yeah. The one thing about eyebrows have to be like super uniform. Like they have to be consistent. That is something you can't mess up on. Now I'm starting to think that the mouth isn't just. Let me see. Is there a lasso tool? One thing I like experimenting is I take a lasso. I think it's the lasso, right? Or is that just me drawing like a bitch? Or do I not have a lasso tool? That's what I'm wondering. I got my stuff there. Left toolbar, the 3D viewport. Again, I'm looking in here on the eyes, and it's like, I definitely think the mouth needs to be a bit more up towards the right. I think that's why it's not looking too good. So I'm gonna see how to get the lasso tool. See if I can use that. Is that a fat? Alright, so one thing I'm trying to work on is got all these tools down. Edit. Is there pen? Shear. There's shift space. So let's transform. Maybe like move, yeah, like maybe just be here where I can just move. So for that also, I'm just gonna see if I can just do the mouth. Yeah. So I can kind of mimic that. So what I have to do is it has to be just a bit connecting towards where the blood is coming from. No, that actually looks decent. That way, no, that's way better. Now, think I have to do is I'm just gonna do it one more time, where I just move it up, and then if that connects into that just towards that angle, and down. That works a lot better, right? Oh yeah, 100%. So I'm guessing that's like the alternative to the lasso tool. Um, that actually helps a lot. That helps a bit too much. So now we know that the edit mode has its own tools and stuff. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to object mode. That's working really well. I'm just going to see the proportions we have here. I think I should go back to draw mode and start working on the secondary eyebrow. Yeah, I think so. Let's check how we have in the main view. I think the main view looks decent. Here now we just gotta add more volume to said mouth. Do I want to add teeth grit? Cause yeah, no, that is something that would be interesting to add. Bit of teeth grit like that would be decent. Let's go to the alt view. Yeah, it's good. Just what I need to do now is make the mouth less sharp, because again, mouths aren't really that sharp. Yes, it's a cartoon, but you should still, if you want, just add more realistic proportioning to that. So I'm just gonna add that, and now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go back to the object mode, and then we're going to edit, right? We're going to move the pre-existing blood. First we're going to rotate it just a little tad bit, because I think that's going to look better. And we're only going to move it up a little bit, because again, it doesn't need to be moved up too much. Just to that level, yeah. And then now we got to move this part. This part is what needs to be moved. Up. Yeah, because it's coming from the mouth. And then we'll rotate. So let me add that back to my selection. Again, we're working on the still frame, so we can get a base of how to turn it. Because again, I think 3 seconds would be clicking the gunpowder into the cannon, and then we'll cut to a shot of the cannon going up and exploding, and then that will be the 6 seconds. And then if I want for the 3 second scene, which I want, we'll add this part where he's shooting out the cannon. So I definitely think that will come later with more detailing, but I think that can definitely be done. And now I think really it's just modifying the jaw. I think the jaw is the most important part of getting the sculpture we want. 'Cause damn, we've come far. We've come super far from the original jaw. Now, I just got to decide how much I want the which part, because I think this part is fine. This part is maybe what I want to come in a bit more. So I'm going to erase just that. I'm gonna sharpen that. And let's go in from kind of like we're going up. You know, doing that jaw cut. Yeah, wait, that's better. Because again, we're angling the jaw and the neck itself too. So I'm just gonna make the lines a bit thicker here. Cut the neck that way so that we, there you go. There you go. Alright, so I think now it's just shading the just gonna add more that, and then I'm gonna add the second eyebrow. I'm gonna thicken the lines for the eyebrow just a little bit so that we can get a clear connotation, or like a clear view of, hey, this is where the hatching is and this is where the start of the brow is. Because I like how, like, for example, like Attack on Titan, I like how older animes, well, it's old now, but it's like mid-gen, where they have like a lot of the extreme hatching when it comes to the under eyes, with just the thick back lines. That's something I like to replicate. So I'm just gonna add more detail to the eye there. Make the scar more pronounced. Add more shading around the nose area. Thick black lines here under the nose. So let's just see, for example, how it looks. That looks really good. Again, if it looks good facing the other way, it's gonna look better here. The only thing now is just correcting the ear, and then of course the jaw. So I'm just gonna cut the ear into there, just barely, for like shortening the ear, and then we're gonna erase that. See there? So we kind of fixed that problem with the jaw, at least on that side. Of course, when we finish the top part of the head, where it's gonna be a lot better because we have like some clear distinction. So I'm gonna see how it'll look when I get this side of the head done. So again, we're going in this way. Kind of flat like that. But still, because again, it's a slick back, and so we're still gonna add some of that, like whatever the under part is, I forgot, like this part, the sideburns. Yeah, I was like the sideburns and the texture from, again, slicking the hair back. Yeah, let me just correct that. I'm gonna try to round up the spikes a bit more towards the bottom so it's more like uniform. Yeah. And then at the top here, of course, it could be very uniform because, again, the spikes are very similar. But still gonna add some distinction. And then we're just gonna see, I think the hair, we're still gonna consistently draw like that. And now we're just gonna Poopity whoop. That. I think this really helps when doing hair. Like, you can do some strands more detailed, but like creating these larger shapes, and then we can go in with the details. I think that helps a lot. So again, he's hanging upside down, so there's not going to be a lot of hanging hairs. It's only like, from what I've seen, like 4 hairs hanging in this thing. Now I am going to add a bit more, just a little bit of like strands, because detail. But I don't think we need that much, and of course we have the texture from the hair being slits back. Just gonna add a little bit of that. Gonna add like the shine, or like the second layer of hair. Just gonna add a few of that. There you go. So I got the 2 layers. The second layer is going to be more of the shine. The top is going to be the dark. See how it looks from upside down. That looks good. That's very good. So a lot of this is again getting the still frame done decently well, so that we can start converting it into an animation. And again, a lot of that, I want the face to be really well done. So I'm gonna start working on the second eyebrow now, after I make that a bit more sharper. Again, I don't want it to be too gray, because I don't know how much of the ink pen I'm going to use. I'm really just going to use the ink on certain areas like the eyes, but besides that, I'm going to go very dark with my grease pen, because the grease pen is again a very good tool, and I don't really think I'd want to go over with another layer when I can do that already pretty decently. Yes, like right now, if I go really hard, I can kind of like mimic the ink lines. See that? Like, I can do that. The more pressure I add, so if I make my pen straight, that would help a lot. Alright, so we're gonna curve the eyebrow on that a little bit. We're still gonna add like the sharp, because again, your eyebrow should be somewhat uniform. It doesn't have to be in all the scenes, but usually eyebrows are drawn very thick and uniform like, if you're drawing eyebrows at all, because again, some styles they don't really do eyebrows, and that doesn't mean there's no eyebrows, but people generalize that same line of ink. Now that back in the day they drew eyebrows very bushy, so I'm continuing with that style, but I'm still going to try to minimize it a bit more just to make it decent for animating. There you go. Alright, so really it's just adding some more like dark details with the grease. Yeah, because like, even if because I'm gonna see right now what the ink pen looks like. Let's go ink pen. That's a thick ass ink pen. My god. I mean, I kind of like the ink pen. I use the ink pen, but like, I do want to make it very uniform so it's easier to transition. I gotta make it clear that this is blood and not just a really long nostril. So again, I'm going to add more clear detail. I think that works pretty decently. So one thing I'm gonna do pressure. I'm gonna see how it looks on a digital camera. I do this in all my drawings, by the way, because the way a drawing appears to the naked human eye when you're drawing it, and then when it's rendered on a camera, very different. And that definitely shows you how thick the ink you're using, how your ink looks, because either your inking is going to look way better than it looks to your naked eye, or it's going to look horrible, like actual dookie, like it's going to be horrible. So I do think that this is one way to see. So okay, yeah. So what it's pointing out for me right now is the texture I'm using on the hair. How I decided to grease up a little bit. Alright, so yeah, I just have to consistently, now I know I have to consistently flow my thickness of my ink throughout, because I think I'm faking too much volume with the ink. Yeah, that's definitely an issue. Yeah. And then of course I gotta fix the eye proportion. Let me trim the frame a lot. One thing I don't like about the camera is that it tends not to get you in the frame. Alright, so let's get closer. My back is literally killing me. So one thing that I'm not trying to one for one it, but I'm trying to see how I can get it into animation and still make it look pretty good. And a lot of that is how I'm doing the jaw, because again, the jaw has like this point here where it doesn't connect. That's a common thing you'll see in comics. It saves time, but it also helps create this effect where again you see there's the jaw fat underneath. Again, it's not fat, even though it is. It's just showing that there is more to the jaw than just the jawline. There's underjaw. You know, when you're mewing, you see this jaw fat. Some of that is fat. Sometimes it's just, hey, you have like all of this and your Adam's apple under, and this helps communicate that not only is there all that under, but there is more fat. That if you hatch that, you add some shading and good coloring, definitely helps enhance the way the jaw looks. So everything looks pretty good besides so far just the mouth. I should start rounding it out more. I'm gonna start rounding it out just a little bit. Just definitely I'll work on the proportions later, because I think that is that 100% important, but a lot of that kicks in with just how you're doing the how you're just doing the animation in general. Like, how's the face looking? The face has to correspond. One thing I'm noticing that there's like a little scoliosis ish, because again, one thing you can do that always helps is draw a straight line of where the body's going. Like down here, that's fine. Up here, yeah. Towards the neck, it's like you can tell there's like the bicep is like protruding, and therefore is causing some issues there. but that's like natural. You just don't want it to look good. You just don't want it to look natural. So let me just add some more clothing wrinkles. Let's go back to the base view. See, that's pretty decent. Again, it's gonna look better as you're up more. I think another thing, arm difference, because of the shading, the arm looks skinny. Not a skinny arm. It's just the shading that will be corrected later on with coloring. This lacks a lot of that shading, so that's why again it looks a bit off. Again, it's not a skinny arm, but it is just the way it's being shaded. So I'm gonna add some more shading, some more of that. Again, I'm showing. Again, then I think it's the neck and the elbow that's I'm confusing up with each other. Let me round out the bicep a bit more, just there. There you go. Perfect. That's good. Now. Now what I should do is that to mimic the emotion, I should try to lift the eyebrow right here just a little. So let's go back to edit mode. Let's draw like no, this part. Yeah, that's like the fear and the stress and the panic a bit more. But I still want to keep the shading there, so I'm just gonna go up. I'm just gonna rotate this part towards the left. There you go. That helps more at the eyebrows, because when we go back here, that looks good. I think that's pretty good. So we're gonna go back to object mode. Go back to draw mode. There you go. And then of course again we can always just move the frame when we want. Definitely drawing it in the camera view, way easier. Now I don't want to cut the jaw anymore. I think the jaw's decent. I could move it up. I could. And here in this perspective, it does look a little bit better. I think I'm going to keep it like this. Yeah. I'm going to keep it like that. And I'm just going to focus on the anatomy with the neck. Because yeah, noticing now it is actually equal. And how the so there's a little bit of shirt right there that pops up. Let me see if I draw the shirt a bit longer, if that helps. Helps a little bit, because if we erase some of the muscle here, it looks more like their shirt, you know what I mean? There's no underlayer. There you go. That kind of helps. figuring out how do I work with this. This is a really tough one. Yeah, I'm mostly deciding just how I fix the anatomy because I don't want it looking probably the neck. It's the neck, too much neck. Too much of it is protruding. That's an easy fix by just moving the shoulders like that. Alright, let me just see. Okay, so the neck kind of cuts in where this little scar area does. So I'm gonna get out of perspective mode. When this goes, so does that. And now will be the chest. I gotta make the lower part bigger because, well, I am kind of like working on a perspective. To pull it in more, I gotta make sure that perspective is like in play. You know what I mean? Like like it's actually working. And a lot of that will be trying to squeeze in the legs a little bit. Sure, why not? You know, why not try to squeeze that in? But I still gotta work on the upper part. Lower part is fine. I think the upper part is what needs to be fixed. So again, I will probably change it a bit because I'm still on the stroke frame. Yeah, so definitely correcting the neck proportion. Probably also raising the shoulders. I think there might be too much neck. So if I want, I can just... There's not really much of a dip. There is a dip. So what I can do is we go back to edit mode. Let me see if I can move it without splicing too much. Yeah, like get that down, move, and then just see if we could just it would actually be the opposite. It would be bringing the bottom up. Yeah, it would actually be bringing. I'm gonna bring all of that up. Just there. I'm gonna bring all of this up. Just there. Then I'll do everything in between. Just there. So I think let's go back to regular view. Yeah, that fixes a lot of the problems with the proportions, and now it's really just rely how much I'm gonna rely on perspective to carry me when it comes to seeing this through with the bottom half. So let's go back to draw mode. And let's work on the legs. So I'm again taking at this panel here towards the critter mode with invert. Yeah, the legs I cross in a little bit because again you don't want to make it too sharp because it will kind of remove the perspective. Alright. And then I can kind of draw like the demons, the imps. Again, lost concept in Berserk, but like they removed like the imps and the spirit things a lot, which it's like yeah, it moved on to its storytelling beyond like the gothic horror, but it's like I don't know. This is a little rant that I think those things are still important to Berserk, and I think they're underutilized, but I think it's for like a storytelling reason. Like there has to be a reason. They weren't just thrown out 3 volumes ago. Oh, it's been like 40 volumes. Damn, yeah, it's been 40 volumes since this. It's been nearly 40 years too. So I'm just gonna draw the basic guidelines of these little guys. The eyes are there. I'm not really gonna animate these guys, but well, they're not gonna be showed in frame. But I am maybe gonna add like a little crawling animation, because that would be really dope. You know what I mean? That'd be really badass if I did. But again, that's like an extra detail if I chose, because again, a lot of this is focused on the dynamic of the exploding cannon, and that is most of the action in the scene. This would be more hard to do, but if I wanted to add like more of a pressure to, because again, this scene where the imps are dragging guts into the vortex, that's like adding tension, and then the explosion is like the big thrust out of your seat part. So if I wanted to, after done with animating the explosion, what I can do is then I can add the crawling scene, because again, that will add a lot of pressure. Almost like I don't know how to describe it, but like those movies where it's like very like decisive, or it's like on the edge of your seat and then something happens, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, like a Mission Impossible movie, for example. You know, that in the second to new movie where they're defusing the bomb in the airport, it's like kind of like that. That's my best example, where you can add like this pressure that keeps on like adding, and is like why this scene is happening in the first place. Because again, the reason why he's using this cannon is because he probably knows, but he doesn't think that causality can avoid such a weapon like that that's not being used by like a mortal, like a sword where it's like being swung, but also just to like get these things off of him, because the pressure from a gun explosion can do so. I think it can. And here too, where the panel is being blocked, I can kind of like, in my own way, like I have to, again, when you're animating, you have to interpret what's going on, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna draw the arm like lapping over, kind of redoing the other leg, but you know, differently. Then of course we're gonna add the there you go. So before I do any further, I just want to see how it looks here. I think it looks pretty decent. Now arm, because that's gonna take me a long ass time to animate. Specifically the fact that there's a lot of details to the cannon arm, and the fact that I had to make the mechanism move because it's a gun. I have to pretty much reenact a black powder gun, which not hard, but when you're trying to animate something like this, you have to get it down to a T within a sense. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna also want to add like a kick, because it's very much implied and story reason why, but there's a kick to the cannon, and I kind of want to add like a gun recoil, but like I want to make it look like a blunderbuss, you know, like that type of old timey shotgun where it, like, blasts, has like a nice kick to it, but not a lot, because again, he's not a newbie. He's not like a 20-year-old suburban kid firing a gun for the first time. This is like, it's probably like 100th time using this cannon, so I gotta make sure like the recoil isn't too unrealistic, where it's like, why would he use that in the first place, you know? So I'm gonna just add the I'm gonna make the bandage part of the sling bit. Add. Okay. That we're gonna add that, and then boop. There you go. Ready the interlocking mechanism right there. Then we're just gonna add again, if you do not have the time or the skill, or you just don't want to do it like me, where it's like kind of a rough hassle, instead of making a new line to add def, you could just add the hatching first and either leave as is, because again, when you're coloring you can add that, or you can just quickly do that. It's like a little hack. Again, I'm gonna try to make it more thinner as I get down like that, but again, that's like a quick little hack you want to do if you want to add def to it, like in the panel. You can always do that. But yeah, starting off with a hatching and then add a line also helps you get your line straighter. So yeah, I'm gonna cross that. Yeah, it does indeed go down. I like how there's like these little rivets. That's gonna be the hardest part of my full. I think that's a lot of how I'm gonna do the recoil. Right, it's like a perfectly straight, yeah. So again, I'm gonna do the same hatching technique where I add these little hatches, and then I can add skinny little lines. So again, add depth to the metal. Here we go. Curve that in. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, like that. It's kind of like, it's a bit confusing how the sling goes in, and I'm guessing it's just like these little clockwork rivets, in a sense. So I'm gonna add those. It appears there's 2 layers of that. So again, yeah, it's probably like, yeah, because again, when you're extending the arm, it's gonna go out. So I'm gonna add that as like a filler. Alright, and I think the coloring will take a lot of that later. I'm gonna extend the arm now. Yeah. So we're just gonna extend it that way. Yeah, like a perfectly straight line, pretty much. Because again, it's metal, so while there is like a crease in it to fit an arm, It's not gonna be like it's not gonna have like muscle indents and stuff like that. It's not. It's a crude false arm. So you gotta keep that in mind when you're doing something like that. It's like a lot of people don't really draw medieval or fantasy false arms, but like when you are, you should add to no mechanics. It's very blunt. It's very crude. Um, and it relies often on having an arm itself too to like move it. You know, you can't move the fingers, and again, that's why like you can realistically do something like that where instead of finger joints, you have a cannon. You know what I mean? So I think that's helps too when you're understanding how to animate something like that. Yeah, that's cool. Alright, and then we're just gonna add that. Yeah, and that rivet locks it in between, and then it just goes down into there. There you go. And then it goes that too. Now this goes a bit higher, so we're gonna go there. Now this little part by that screw, this has like an indent that goes a little past the screw. So I'm gonna do that. And we're gonna add this little bug there, screw, and that's where we're gonna make the little like wire connector. So again, you're gonna cross hatch into there. So we're just gonna see how we're gonna make this little rivet. I'm thinking of doing like a little straight line. So around this little connector, there's another thingy. So I'm gonna kind of workshop that. I'm gonna add a straight line connecting that. That's pretty good. And then in the middle, we're gonna move that out. Alright, there you go. And then of course when we are adding this second layer, we can kind of fine tune that in. Again, a lot of that is shading and the thing. And then you cross hatch. You can kind of add these little lines in between to determine there you go. And then we're going to do these vertical lines. So that's kind of like the little gear rivets and just 3 lines. You don't want to is very much going to be used with coloring. Like again, if you don't want to, you want to save time, you have the skill, you can cross hatch or just blend with color, and that will make your texture for you instead of just inking. Again, that's why like when you're converting comic art to animation, it's not very one-on-one. We're gonna thicken this as well. I'm probably going to thicken the arm more because since I'm extending it a little bit, the arm's going to get a bit thicker. So I'm gonna, yeah, thicken it a little more. Again, the top 2 should be decent. Alright. So I'm just gonna create these like finger rivets because these are the joints pretty much. Um, and I can just independently corresponding fingers. Because again, another explanation I really like is that the hand uses magnets. Now, I haven't read too far in to see the author's notes, but I do know that the inside of the hand has a magnet, and that helps the Dragon Slayer keep to the arm. So, because again, it's a crude arm. In medieval times, they don't have technology, so using your false-handed grip wouldn't really help. So again, a magnet on top of the fact that it's metal, that adds a really cool like plus to having a false arm. Though you do say again, because it's very crude, since you can't grip it with your joints, it's that the only advantage is having a magnet attached to the inside of the arm, and that having a regular hand would be 100 times better. Which again, I do think having the cannon is an improvement over having a regular arm. Again, the grip strength to use the Dragon Slayer. I do understand that a regular hand would be better. I'm just like, still, you have a cannon hand, dude. Like, that's sick as hell. Like, come on. Alright. Now we're gonna draw the cannon. It has like this, again, like a flintlock blunderbuss little like thing going on here. Has like a barrel, but then it has like this little like design in it. So let me, again, you'll have to do a lot of erasing. Let's go back to draw mode. You gotta do a lot of erasing to prevent that. Because you don't want to rely too much on adding pressure to show that, hey, there's like new parts that you're drawing. It's like you should erase a lot of the faulty parts that don't serve you anymore. So I'm just gonna add that. So I'm just gonna correct the joints just a tad bit more, yeah, because like the fingers do come out, so not too much, because you see the fingers like curve in like that. So I'm just going to draw, and I'm not going to focus too, because again, I don't know how equal, yeah, it's kind of equal the way the real fingers are. Maybe that's a bit too fat, but that's fine. It too long, so I'm going to probably tilt it. No, decided to detail the cannon. I gotta make it more straight, but also it is a bit too long. Like, I should shorten it just a little bit. Edit mode. Let's just, yeah, that's fine. Just gotta make sure it matches up with, because right now it's not matching up. Because hold on, let me just. Because the way I drew the shading of the arm was pretty decent. Because I'm just gonna see how it looks upside down, because we haven't shot that in a while. It looks good upside down, but again, the arm does look a bit. The arm does look a bit long. Now, I do think detailing is gonna help a lot, because if I add that, stretch it out there, still short. So I'm gonna take the this part of the arm. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna just scooch that John down a bit, and then I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna scooch just a little bit, and then let's see how it looks now. Better, 100%. Let's go back to draw mode. Just go back to the there. Okay. That's actually pretty good. I just got bombarded with an X. Now it's really just fixing the shading, like where everything lies on, because everything's pretty normal. I should move the cannon a bit more. Let me see something. Alright. Yeah, this is a tough one, because I got to move all that. Start from here and see. Looks like there's 2 layers to this thing. Like, I gotta be careful too. Alright, now what I'm thinking is that a bit more messy? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, like. Man, that's tough, dude. Because it's like, there's like a few layers here. And then I'm mixing that on top of, because when we're in edit mode, it looks a bit more crude. But here, when we're back in here, it's like, okay, that makes sense. So like, hold up, I'm gonna redraw it just a little bit. I'm gonna try to fit it in to what we're doing right now. think the yeah, that's tough. What I should do, which I haven't been doing, is going behind with a eraser and just scrubbing out the little details I don't need. Now there is gonna be a lot of lag when it comes to that. Minimize a lot of stuff. Oh, it's straight bullshit. Yeah, let me just take that out. One thing I can do is that I can, if I choose, I can just do detail more in coloring and After Effects, because I'm gonna render this. Like a lot of beginner animators don't really render. I'm like, that's the tip to making it professional. You know what I mean? So, I really think I could fix that in there. I'm gonna minimize my shading because again, it's animation. You know. Gonna make sure I do the joints correctly. Just making sure that all the joints I do are very well done, so it doesn't look off. On top of that too, I think I gotta minimize the hand, because when I'm looking in the perspective, yeah. So let me add the dip that's missing. Now I really just gotta correct the proportions of the arm. Everything besides the cannon. So that's what I'm gonna try to focus on right now. Just getting all that nailed. Alright. That's one thing. I'm trying to see how much of the metal am I gonna do. Again, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do like a pull up animation, because again in this he's being like pulled up in a way, but also where it's like down within a sense, so it's like straight and he gets the arm in, he blasts out of that. So that's what I'm planning on doing. So yeah, I gotta definitely work on the arm because right now it's looking a bit too flat. I gotta make it more mechanical. So right when the arm dips here, I'm gonna add that like crevice. And again, the arm's gonna be a bit more blonde, like long than usual. But it's like, hey, you know, I drew it long, so what can I do? You gotta work with what you got. Plus, when I render it, it's gonna look better. But yeah, so like I think I'll be doing this like, of course I'll be drawing behind the scenes like almost every day. But I'll be trying to stream like at least once or twice a week, and I expect in 2 months to get this done. Like this month I want to get the base animation down, and then next month I think I'll do rendering, cause like this month I'm just gonna get the animation, and then if I want to add the extras out in the coloring, because again when I'm drawing the liminal space, if I'm gonna be doing that, which I think I will a little bit, that's gonna be insane background work, you know what I mean? Especially if I do 3D backgrounds, which I think I'm gonna do like a little hybrid of the mix. Probably will do a 3D background hybrid. That might take a little bit more too. Create like the second little crevice, because it's like an arm within an arm. The area where he attaches the crossbow, it's like, so I'm gonna make sure I will hatch that part for sure. Let's see how that curves in. Pretty much stops right at this little area, so I'm gonna mimic that. I'm just gonna go around again, adding the horizontal cross hatching. It's a little bit like to the areas that aren't like really thick or have that type of hatching. Then yeah, I'm gonna apply the hatching this way too. Okay, we're gonna add that illusion of death within the arm, because there is death. So adding the death, but trying to make it like it's almost like two arms in one, you know what I mean? Like that cylinder. Now again, I'm going to have to add more shading to this part, because I'm making up for the over length of the arm, so I gotta make sure it's shaded extra well. Because again, If you make a mistake and you don't want to reverse it, you should make up for it. That's what I try to do. So you don't have times you could turn them into either little blessings or just not as bad as you thought they were. You know, that's what I'm trying to do. So I add more shading to make the square of the arm. Make it look like a nice little square. See that? So that's good. And then I'll shade the outside of the arm, but only of it. Alright, I'm just gonna shade this part real quick. I'm pretty much just gonna finish shading the arm, and I think that should be it for the stream. And then we'll continue this next week, or maybe Thursday, one of those days. But yeah, sometime later this week, I'll launch up another stream while we do this, because I will try to work this of me doing it. So, but you know, I have a busy schedule. If we do this all the time, it'll be a lot of me going back and forth. And like, I want to show you guys the good part. So, yeah. Just gonna add some of that. Alright. So that. Now let's see how it looks. See, that's pretty good. Again, coloring will carry a lot of the hatching. I'm just gonna check if there's any parts of the arm I gotta continue hatching. If not, then I think that should be it for the stream. But yeah, probably gonna go one more time at this left divot area, just with another crosshatch. Yeah, the arms don't really gotta get, you know, I'll just do the joints. The joints are really what needs to be hatched. That's pretty much. I think that should be it for now. I'll correct the proportions of the arm later. I definitely know I have to make the joints a bit longer. That's it for the pre-colored shading. It's not a lot of shading beyond that. If I were to add color, because I'm adding color, so most of that will take care of the problems, and this will just be extra. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Yeah, I think really I'm just gonna end it here. This was pretty good for what I got so far. For like, it's been about 2.5 hours. I think this is a really good amount of progress for today. And again, I don't know what I'm doing. It's my first time learning this software. We're doing it as it goes. So yeah, but right now this is where we're at, and I think this is pretty good. So I'll check in later this week or next week, and yeah, this is really good. I'll keep you guys updated. I'll take screenshots of the further days if I decide to work off of stream. But for now, I think this was pretty good for what we got. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Got a few people here, but yeah, I'll link a post to the next stream, and then we'll get you guys going then. But yeah.